Hello and welcome to the Tech Lunch Podcast, where we encourage our listeners to learn something new about tech every week. This can range from learning about new and exciting tech applications to the advancements in coding and technology. If you are always learning, you will always be a step above the rest. Take the time during lunch or during a break to listen and learn, kind of like a lunch and learn, but for the ears. This podcast will open the listener's ears to new and exciting technologies they may have not been purviewed to in the past. These topics will range from manufacturing technologies to data collection technologies and everything in between. All right, welcome to the Tech at Lunch Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I am Edward.
All right, today we're going to be talking about MQTT. So, we're going to get into the kind of what the origin story is and what MQTT is. So what you got, Ed?
So that's a funny thing you bring up, Nick. And it brings to mind something that I've read in the past, and it's oil pipes and satellites. So the origin of MQTT was based off of a need for the oil industry to monitor oil pipelines. And they did this via satellite, which was very expensive at the time. So they invented MQTT. Ironically, the MQ was actually developed by IBM, and it was basically a bandwidth efficient, lightweight, and use little battery power. That was one of the benefits of it, and that's how we ended up in MQTT. I mean, a smart guy named Andy Stafford Clark actually was involved in Arlen Nipper, and so that brings us to You Got MQTT.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you think about it, we still use what's considered the MQ version of that, the IBM MQ. It's a dedicated messaging broker, messaging service that's still used in major corporations today to move data from one server to another server, one major system to a subsystem and stuff like that. Which, it's kind of funny that, we're now using, IBM MQ, which has been around for decades, something like MQ admin and stuff like that. And now we're using it in a smaller fashion for MQTT, So, smaller message traffic, which kind of, leads us into the next point. What is MQTT? MQTT is a messaging broker, which we know from what the origin story is. So it's like, everybody's got MQTT. It's just one of those things. You may not know that you have it. You may not think you have it. But if you've ever had to deal with, for instance, like my truck, for instance, Chevrolet, we have I get emails all the time. Hey, look, your vehicle's due for service. Guess what's causing that? It's an MQTT interface that's being shot to somewhere else and telling them exactly what's going on with your vehicle. But you also get it inside smart homes. Most smart home things, if that type of thing, is all MQTT based. And, which kind of leads to the fact that, you have all different types of, MQTT and how it's used in different areas, from major industrial to non-industrial to, consumer grade and non-consumer grade. But the funny part is, MQTT itself is a message. It just tells you, hey, this is what's going on. And can be used anywhere. You don't really have a deviation between consumer grade and non-consumer grade. It's all MQTT. That's all you got. It's one broker, one type of broker, and one type of sender, one type of receiver. So, hell, you can have the damn thing in your, garage door if you really wanted it. But, this is how it works. It's just, what is it MQTT and how is it used? So what do you think about that?
Well, what I think about it is like you said, a lot of the things now that are being used, you have smart appliances that use this technology, and they, hey, this is what you're low on. You need milk. So, like Nick said, basically there are two type of networks. One is a message broker with a number of clients, and then the other one is a broker, basically on the server side, that receives all the message from the clients and route the messages where they need to go. So the thing that's good about MQTT is that it takes the data, move it where it's supposed to, with no bandwidth limitations, because it's all handled through the message broker and the broker on the server side. So the biggest thing that I'm seeing that now you can use these things with sensors of any type. I can use it for a sensor on a vehicle. I can use it for a sensor tied to this technology from a HVAC unit, or I can use it in an industrial plant and monitor different environmental things, monitor where I'm having bottlenecks, or even monitor part presence and things of that nature. So I think what it is basically a network that is more efficient than using, say, a conventional network of passing data. You don't have the limitation of having to have big servers, because this is basically can be run off battery power, and it's a lot more efficient. Is what I think.
If you think about it, you can send thousands and thousands and thousands of messages per hour, per minute, per day, and it's not going to bottleneck it. It's not going to slow it down. If anything, it's going to make it smarter. Especially if you have it connected to different things and stuff like that, which we'll get into later. And that kind of leads us on to who are the clients, and why do we need these brokers, that type of stuff. It's the published clients and subscribers to brokers. And the big thing with that is, if you're really thinking about who the clients are and who the broker is, which you have Mosquito and you have Hives. However, it's also the same thing of where you're, like you said, it's being sent from a sensor someplace. It has to. It doesn't have a choice. It has to read data from some major piece of information, and that piece of information has to send it through someplace else. So if you think about it, the sensor is sending something, while the broker is a message gateway. It's a mailbox, which sends that letter to someplace else. Mm-hmm. It's a redirect is pretty much all it is. It's a sender and a receiver. So, what do you kind of think about how the clients and the subscribers are set up?
Like I said, the big thing with the clients and the subscribers, just to give a small example, I mean, there are systems where MQTT is basically attached to a sensor network. So a sensor network could be a smartwatch on your arm. It could be anything like Zigbee. And basically what it does is it can monitor your heart rate. It can, and all these things are being sent, like we said before, from your client to your brokers, or client/subscriber to your broker. And then the data is passed, the broker deals with the data. Like I say, it could be hundreds of thousands of messages. And then you can take all of these things and put them into analytical systems, and then you can monitor your heart rate when you ran Friday, or when the temperature was 70 and the humidity was 80. So those are things that you can all use in this system. And basically, like Nick said, to dumb it down a little bit, it's basically like taking an envelope, putting it in your mailbox, the postal service come and pick it up out of your mailbox, takes it to a distribution center, sorts it, sends it where it needs to go. And that's pretty much what the subscriber broker does. Subscriber being the person putting the letter in the mailbox, broker being the person picking it up and sorting it and sending it where it needs to go.
Yeah, I'm talking like a directional antenna. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, and then it's like kind of going into the more commercial versus non-commercial side of the house. You have the Mosquito MQTT broker or the Hives MQTT broker. Mosquito, hell, you can run the damn thing on a Raspberry Pi. Have fun with it, try it at home, really get into it, kind of learn it. While Hives is more of your commercial end, server-based, heavy infrastructure type of MQTT broker, built for bigger environments. However, the Mosquito broker can still handle thousands of clients at one time without even thinking about it, without even batting an eye. It can still handle all of that data in and out. So, and that's why we kind of go on, is there really a commercial grade, MQTT broker? I don't think so. I'm not sold on the fact that you have a commercial grade anything. It's everything's the consumer grade to a point. And I think that
mosquito broker, for instance. If you think about it, you can still handle the same amount of connections and broker traffic, maybe not at the same speed as you can with the with the Hives. You can put it on a Raspberry Pi and play with it at home for the same thing. I don't know if I'm off base here or not. I might be, but for example, it's what I think.
And we're talking scalability. That's what we're talking. So when you say commercial, like I said, I believe the same things can be done with Mosquito that can be done with Hive MQ. Mosquito, say, maybe my scalability is not millions of people. Maybe my scalability is I only want to know information about, like I said, that sensor network I'm talking about. I only want to know information about, hey, I want my information for me, and I want my information shared outside of my domain. Or, hey, I don't need that information I don't need to know what the neighbor's HVAC unit is doing. I need to know what mine is doing. Maybe if I was thinking more, I need to know from a utility standpoint, yeah. So to give an example, like I said, comparing Mosquito for, hey, this is, I'm learning. Hey, I want to have a way to make my own environment, develop my own system, then hey, yeah, I can use a Raspberry Pi, start development, and this is tailored toward me. But say if you BMW, and you want to do a car sharing service, then maybe the scalability is not there with Mosquito. Maybe you use the scalability with, and basically a lot of this stuff is trust and working with each other in the past. And as I said, MQT is, in our opinion, I don't think it's a limitation far as this is only for commercial, this is only for consumer. So like I said, with BMW, they set up a system where they want to do car sharing. They wanted to address some issues with network latency and network reliability, and that's a bigger system.
Right.
Maybe I have to have a lot more of those things. Maybe those things are not in, maybe Mosquito does not have the present in the cloud or so forth. And maybe that's the difference between Hive MQ and Mosquito. But underneath, they basically do the same thing.
Yeah. So like your Mosquito MQ is kind of like a gateway drug. Mm-hmm. It gets people hooked on the technology, make them want to learn more. And, that's kind of like the reason why we're having his here talking about it. Get people kind of, tied into it, wanting to learn it, really wanting to play with it. Play with it at the house. It's the best way to do it. Track something if you want to. Have fun with it. That's the best part. Then, we go from we've got all this data. We got this data coming in and going places, and, what the heck do we do with it? One of those things is, we got to look at, either, it's an alert, or why do I need Kibana? It's kind of one of those things. It's Node-RED versus Elastic Kibana Search. It really depends of where you're taking that data, where you're seeing the data. The thing is we can even take that and go into our next topic eventually, and that's kind of where you get into the bigger topics, But it's like Node-RED. Node-RED, for instance, takes your data that comes in off your MQTT broker, and splits it and says where you want it to go. So you can have one thing coming in and go into multiple different data streams and being collected someplace else. However, most of the time, if you think about it, that all goes back to that Elastic Kibana instance. If you're one of the know, or even if you're not, you've heard about Kibana, you've heard about the alerting, you know what it is, or you're familiar or want to learn what it is, which is the best part because Kibana is free. Node-RED is free. So you can take that Mosquito broker, a sensor, feed data through the Mosquito broker, send it to Node-RED, and send Node-RED to Kibana and learn the platform. I know in Node-RED, you're not gonna you have your routes. You don't have your kind of your bigger and more interesting things. You kind of have a little bit more control of where your data goes. However, in Kibana, you can take that data and search it. You can make dashboards on it. You can make effective decisions on what it's used for. Predictive things. Hey, when is my AC going to go down? Or when am I need to change, the data on this? Or when is something like this going to happen? And stuff like that. You can kind of plan that out. And also, if you get an alert, you get something on something, it'll send you an email. It also helps in like the big domains. We get like predictive maintenance.
Yes. And like you said, Nick, when you was talking about Node-RED, so basically our friends again, IBM was involved, or someone at IBM was involved, and they use flow-based programming, where we're describing a behavior of a network or black boxes or nodes as they are called in Node-RED. And Kibana, like you said, is more of a dashboard. It's more of a tool to visualize data and to see our data visually. So that's really the difference between the two, and they both work together well. Whether you use Mosquito or whether you use Hive MQ.
Yeah, they both feed data someplace. And the thing is you got to know what to do with the data. You can have MQTT set up all day long, broker, and stuff like that, and a client. But if you don't do anything with the data, what's the big deal? Right. And the thing is, you need to know how to use it. And I think that's the big ticket item for most people is, what do I do with these 140,000 some odd messages I'm going to get on a daily basis? And that is turn it into something useful. Data needs to be useful. And the thing is change the status quo of how we're doing things. Understanding that we have to change the way the industry is set to understand how we're supposed to do things.
Correct.
And the big thing is visualize it. Most people out there are visual learners. If they see the data, they see it transpired in certain things, even if it's like, I don't know, freaking, what is it, Power BI? From Microsoft. You can take all that data out of Kibana, throw it into Power BI, and spit out a nice fancy dashboard for people. It just doesn't help your homeowners. It helps your business owners, for example. Your business owners know everything that's going on with every piece of equipment they own, so they can make decisions later on when they have to call somebody. And I kind of think that's kind of where things have to go. Which that's why we kind of get into the next topic. So where you have IoT versus IIoT and the combination of the two. We start getting into something where you have Internet of Things, which is around your house, your cars and stuff like that. Then you get into industrial Internet of Things, of where you're dealing with the oil pipelines and power substations that kind of give off their messages and tell the owners of the company kind of what's going on. If you think about it, you look at your house, like right now, they don't actually ever have to come and read my meter anymore. They use MQTT to read the meter on your house from a satellite and to tell the power company how much power you used. So, but that gets into something of where you get into some long-range topics, which is, IoT and Industry 4.0. We start getting into the big conversations of, what is Industry 4.0? Industry 4.0 is industry of the future. We'll rely more on technology and the technology base, infrastructure, the Kibana instance, the Node-REDs, the MQTTs, to build the factory of the future to get us to that point, to assist with maintenance or whatnot. But the thing is, it kind of opens up the gateway for more companies and more people to develop something to assist these companies in getting into this industry, as far as like the IoT spectrum.
Yeah, and then just to piggyback on that also, Nick, the big thing with the Internet of Things, the industrial Internet of Things, and then you even have some companies now using vehicle of things.
Yeah. Because
we're in a world now where data is fastly becoming a commodity, and data can be a good thing for a manufacturer if they're trying to, hey, do we have an issue? Should we wait 5 years for an issue to show up, or can we get this data now to tell us, hey, we got a problem? I mean, it's almost like NASA when it's mission critical and they monitor a sensor and they say, oh, this is not good. Hey, we need to fix this now. This is going to be a problem once we get into orbit. So it's the same thing with MQTT devices. It's the same thing with whether we're using Mosquito, whether we're using Hive MQ, or if we're using Red Node and Elastic together, or if we're using Power BI, whatever tools we're using, those smart intelligent sensors now that can give us information. So we're going from the realm of bits or the nature of a bit, on or off, to, hey, not only am I monitoring on and off, I'm monitoring on and off duration. I'm monitoring on and off patterns, and then I can take that data and put it into analytical machines and use a little AI, and then now I can get things faster to market. I can discover problems with my product faster to make sure that I satisfy the customer. So I think it's a win-win with IoT and IIoT.
Yeah, it's the other thing is, like you hear it kind of thrown out there is, data is the new oil. What is data and how data is used, and MQTT kind of feeds that niche of, hey, we got to be a more data fearing economy. Data is used for everything. Don't fear it, accept it. Bring it into your workspace, bring it into your companies, bring it into your lifestyle. And understand how you can use it. And the big thing is, you have companies out there like, for instance, Tesla, and all of them that are using MQTT on a routine basis. They believe in the factory of the futures. And it's just not them. It's like you said, NASA uses it to pull data from satellites. It's a quicker way of getting information from point A to point B. It's low latency. It's high quick movements. And then you take that data, pack it into an environment, and spit it out into Power BI or into Kibana.
Right.
And you can also, the best thing you can do with this stuff now is you can take it and throw it in the cloud. So you can throw it in Azure environment, and cloud-based 95% of this. So you don't have to worry about on-premise servers anymore. Your on-premise servers go to Amazon or they go to Microsoft, depending on what camp you're in. So that on the other hand, saves you time and energy. You take that, send it through a cloud-based broker into a cloud-based data lake. Take that data lake and feed Kibana or feed Power BI. It's just kind of how it goes. But it's the best way of preventing structural infrastructure, if you think about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the software as a service. I mean, or even infrastructure as a service, because those things typically have a time constraint. Those things also typically come with a high cost. So for me, the server on site, yes, it's nice to have, but you have warm sites and cold sites also, just in case of emergency. So it's not necessary to have the old, basically, energy vampires we have, with servers, because as you know, servers require a lot of energy.
Yeah. And
also you have to climatize those areas too.
Yeah.
So, that's a really good point.
Yeah. And, it's maintenance versus non-maintenance. And, it's offloading versus non-offloading. I'm not saying, take your infrastructure and throw it away and, bring in an outsourced company to run your cloud. No, I'm not saying that. You can have both. You can have a hybrid cloud environment, where you have it on-site and off-site.
Right.
And the thing is with MQTT, it makes life just as simple. You're not having to worry about that anymore. So it saves you time, saves you energy, saves everything. But it puts your data at your fingertips no matter where you are.
Correct.
Globally. You can be in a whole other country and you'll still have your data from your location. You can be in the middle of Midwest in Nebraska, get your data from your servers and stuff like that in Nebraska, and still answer an email when you're sitting in a board meeting in the middle of Berlin, Germany, or Munich, or Rota, Spain, for instance.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about it.
Correct.
If you think about it, even the airlines now are using MQTT to talk about their maintenance topics off their airplanes. So, and they're pumped into a cloud environment.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to cloud environment.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think where everybody's going. And that kind of feeds that industry 4.0 of the industry of the future topic, and continues to push that envelope to the next greatest, industry revolution that we're going to have. It's the fourth industrial revolution. And I think now we have to be prepared for that, no matter what industry you're in.
Correct. Either be prepared or be prepared to be left behind.
Right. And say, get on the bus or don't. And I think that's kind of where we're going with it. It's, hop on or hop off. Be with us or be without us. type of thing. So, hey, we're going to the last 5 minutes of this, give people back to lunch break. So, parting shots, what you got, Ed?
Just for me, like I said, the biggest thing I take away from what we normally sit around and just talk about is the power of MQTT and the Internet of Things and all the tools that you can use. Whether you're using Mosquito, whether you're using Hive MQ, whether you're using a Node Kibana analytics system, or whether you're just using Power BI making your own dashboards. It's something everybody should look into, even from a consumer point of view or a commercial point of view.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I think that, as we get prepared for the next generation of data, and we get ready for the next generation of people to come into the workforce, Industry 4.0, MQTT is the way of the future. And the thing is we got to be able to learn it. We got to be prepared for it. We got to bring it into our lives and really, divvy up. And, the thing is, I kind of leave with this. I kind of leave with a charge. Charging people to, hey, go out there and, get a Raspberry Pi, play with Node-RED, play with, a Mosquito, play with, Kibana. You can put it all on a Raspberry Pi, or you can put it on whatever you want to. And even a small old laptop. But, that type of stuff is, go out and play with it. Don't sit here and, and forget about it. So, that's the charge I give. And I really think that, faster we get into this, the faster we change the status quo of what is tech and what is the way of the future and how we get there and how we pull away from it.
Thank you for listening to the Tech at Lunch podcast, where we hope you learned something about tech during your break or during your lunchtime. If you did, please give us a follow to prevent missing future episodes. If you have any ideas or something you want to hear or learn about, please send us a show idea to podcast@vulcanara.com. Hope you have a good rest of the day and continue learning.